We go down to Auburn, Alabama. Joe, coming off a season that I'm sure that they did not want in the – what was it? Wait, was that the second year of Hugh Freeze? Yeah, that was the second year of Hugh
Freeze. Year three.
Right. The second year of Hugh Freeze, they did not want the record that they had. Thinking Payton Thorne would take that next step in his last year. Joe, Auburn did not have the season they want. When you look at the Auburn Tigers going into 2025, they made a lot of different changes. Your thoughts on what they do here?
You and I were talking about this before we started taping, that it felt like last year Auburn had the bones of a team that could have been 9-3. A lot of close games, a lot of offensive production, a lot of really underrated defensive players. And more importantly, that transition from last year into this year, they're bringing back most of those players. They are bringing back Keldric Faulk and Connor Liu. You're bringing back all of these guys. Cam Coleman, who is a promising freshman for you. The biggest thing as well is that you were very active in the transfer portal and you brought in the best receiver in Eric Singleton. This roster, Blake, to me, catches my attention. But there's one thing that we got to focus on here. And I know that we're going to unpack a lot. I have no idea how to feel about Jackson Arnold. I have zero idea how to feel about him because Payton Thorne comes in from Michigan State into this offense that has been characterized as one under Hugh Freeze as not doing a good job of setting up quarterbacks in difficult decision positions. So if a guy doesn't have that skill, he is going to make mistakes. Payton Thorne wasn't really mistake prone when he was at Michigan State, and he turns out to be mistake prone. Every guy who dropped back under center last year was mistake prone. What was Jackson Arnold last year in a pretty easy offense to operate at Oklahoma? Extremely mistake prone. So I have no idea what to make of this. If he is going to be a 5-star that goes on to live up to the potential and Hugh Freeze unlocks it, I'm hoping for that. But I have a lot of worry, Blake, that the turnovers are just going to continue.
In reference to talking about their defense, offense last year, Joe, we were talking about this every week when we talked about Auburn. Joe, they're one of the only teams in the top 30 in both offense and defensive statistics, right? The problem was they kept turning the ball over. But defensively, man, they were not a bad unit at all. I can make the argument that they were one of the more solid defenses. I say well above average, just good defenses, not only in the SEC, but just the entire college football landscape. They were good enough. But listen, before I move off that defense, Rion Strader's a guy that I was really high on in the portal. That dude is a ball hawk. Joe, think about this. Not one of the only corners that you're going to see in 2 seasons have over 100+ tackles. When I was watching Strader coming into, because I thought LSU would go after him because of the team that I just cover individually, Joe, he is – I don't know if this kid's a corner because he hits like a safety. And by the way, he's in the 20s, Joe, in 2 years in PBUs. This kid was a ball – like teams kept testing him, and he kept swatting the ball away. He's one of the best defensive ads that nobody wants to talk about. I think the kid's going to come in here in the SEC and do some really good things, but we'll have to – look, we'll see. I'm just very high on him. Defensively, you got some guys returning. You go in to get a defensive tackle in Dallas Walker the fourth. Joe, let's see. I feel like that they've been very good defensively in some areas, if I'm being honest. Let's see how they develop some of these young guys. The DB room scares me maybe a little at safety, but I think defensively they could have a top 30 year again. But, Joe, you hit the nail on the head here. Joe, their quarterback more than likely, if it's not Ashton Daniels, who I think might be the best to win that job, if I'm being honest. I think too many people are sleeping on him and not talking about Jackson Arnold. Joe, don't act like Daniels can't go in there and win that job now. Are you in that camp? Because I think Daniels sure showed me that he had some more abilities than Jackson Arnold. It's not like Jackson Arnold is up here and the kid's below him. I mean, I'm not ready to go there yet. So, Joe, I don't even know who's going to win the quarterback position, but if it is Jackson Arnold, Joe, we got a lot of question marks at quarterback, brother. I mean, Payton Thorne did what he did in the Big Ten, and he came to the SEC, and he struggled with Hugh Freeze. What makes you think a guy that was in the conference last year and struggled and couldn't make simple passes and couldn't make simple reads, what are we going to do about that then? I mean, Anybody that wants to talk about Jackson Arnold is going to turn the page under Hugh Freeze. I think it can happen. But, Joe, I think that's a big question mark. Like, how can we do that? Offensively, they might have gotten Eric Singleton, and Cam Coleman's one of the best receivers, young receivers coming into the game. Joe, who's going to throw him the ball? I mean, what has Jackson Arnold done to show you that he can get those two guys the ball relatively effectively? I mean, he was a turnover machine last year. You think that this is going to stop going into year one? Now, if it does, kudos to Jackson Arnold and Hugh Freeze. I don't know if I can see that. So, Joe, I started asking the question to myself, is Auburn in for another season like they had in year one or year two under Hugh? Because, quite frankly, I think they're got really freaking good in a lot of areas. But, Joe, I don't know, man. The quarterback position would worry me that much if we're talking about them taking the next step.
And it's justified because it feels still extremely unsettled. Like like this. I know that you went and you brought in Jackson Arnold, and that was a pretty big pickup for you, and it was a highly regarded one. Him leaving Oklahoma. Ask Oklahoma fans how they feel about him. They have no love lost with that kid leaving. Did not meet the expectations whatsoever with what everybody thought he was going to be, and he frankly was probably one of those recruits that was a little too highly rated when he was coming out of high school, and I think it's a lot of people believe. I think he had a couple of nice moments, but he had to basically act primarily as a runner against Alabama. It's useful for this upcoming year, but he needs to be better as a passer. I agree with you on Daniels. Like, I wouldn't completely believe that it's off the table that Daniels couldn't start at some point this season. I think that he had a lot less that he was working with, and he has some tools to be a dynamic, impactful player. I personally think that Deuce Knight should start at some point. Oh. I think that if there is a DJ Lagway type of an impact where if the wheels somehow do fall off and things aren't going well and you're bouncing in between quarterbacks, turn to Deuce Knight, win some football games with Deuce Knight at the end of the year, and it buys you more time. It's the only way if things are going poorly. And I don't say all this to like immediately put out there to Auburn fans that like you guys are screwed this year, that there is no world that Auburn is going to succeed. There is a path for them to be an 8-9 win team, but it all rests on the shoulders specifically of the guy who's leading the conversation at quarterback, and that is Jackson Arnold. There is something there to be unlocked. There's a reason why he was regarded as highly as a recruit as he was. He's got tools. Like, he has some traits that can be banked on and utilized. He could be a Chad Kelly type of a guy for this team, but he's got to play smarter. And more importantly, Hugh Freeze has to set him up to play smarter. The one argument I would play in his favor, Blake, he's got better receivers than what Peyton Thorne had. Singleton is a potential first-round pick. Cam Coleman's a potential first-round pick in 2 years. These guys are if they play as good as we believe, Jackson Arnold could have a great season.
All right. Daniels, a season ago, had 1,700 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Stanford was just a mess. I'm not – you would have to just go watch him game by game to look and see the impact that he had. I'm not comparing the players. Watching Ashton Daniels and Jane Daniels when they were leaving, like Jane Daniels had 10 and 10. Joe, that it's not justified. Like guys having balls pop up in the air and it getting picked off, like that happened to him. And he didn't have a lot of time to do things. In reference to Jackson Arnold a season ago, Joe, he does have the mobility and the athletic ability that we saw at the end of the season. Okay. But the interceptions, when you look at him on paper, he only had 3. So he lost 7 fumbles. 7. Like, I get what we're trying to say with him, but they have almost damn near the same amount of turnovers. And one was in a much better situation, even at Oklahoma, than he was at Stanford.
Well, one argument I would put out there, though, is that the Auburn offensive line is going to be better than what he had at Oklahoma. I think it's going to be much better.
Fair. I think it's justifiably fair.
But I think he's going to have a lot better protection.
He very well may. It doesn't stop some of the bad decisions that he made. Some of the fumbles. Joe, he's trying to break out of sacks. He's trying to throw the ball away. He gets picked. I mean, we all saw the Tennessee game. Why did he get pulled to start off with? Why did he get pulled? It's because he wasn't performing. He was missing dudes that were wide open. He was taking sacks that he had no business taking, that he should have made the right read. I mean, we all saw it. It's why he got – Brent Venables was not unjustified in benching the kid.
Yeah.
Was he?
No.
So we'll see there. In reference to their team, though, Joe, because we spent a lot of time there at quarterback. You talked about their offensive line. They do go at both tackle spots and get Xavier Chaplin and Mason Murphy at tackle. You know what our saying is, Joe, when you're going at tackle to get guys from the portal, it's always interesting to us, right? Like, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say having a really good center at least makes me feel a little bit better.
Okay, that's where we're about to go. So Connor Lew, one of the better centers in the country. You brought this up in the very beginning, so I'll just kick it over to you. When you see their offense outside the structure of that quarterback, how do you see it?
Well, I mean, I was talking about in the beginning before we even went live. I was watching Connor Lew's tape, and he really popped to me. Looked like he's just got like a really good feel, and having a guy with a presence like that in the middle, I think is going to help anchor the entire unit. I think that bringing back him, the experience of that, is going to help the offensive line. The question is like, how's the run game without Jarquez Hunter? Because Jarquez Hunter was a really good running back for your team. That's one of the things that catches my attention. I'm not worried about receiver, but being able to run the football is going to be another priority for them.
It will. I guess we I don't know. Look, I don't necessarily like that Hunter is gone. Okay, but when I do look at them at running back, I like Alston a lot. I think he is a really good running back. I like Jeremiah Cobb. Let's see what Durrell Robinson gives them. We'll see there. But Joe, they got to get back to just not turning the ball over. I think they did a lot of really good things. And if you take that away, Joe, they did do some really good things last year at Auburn. Before we move on from them, Joe, let's look at their schedule really quickly. Read off, if you don't mind, who they got coming up.
They start at Baylor, which is kind of funny that they keep scheduling these road games against these non-conference opponents, versus Ball State, versus South Alabama, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, bye week, versus Georgia, versus Missouri, at Arkansas, versus Kentucky, at Vanderbilt, bye week, versus Mercer, and versus Alabama. I highlighted, I feel like we kind of agree on what their easy wins are. The ones that I put question marks next to that are like, hey, these are games that they could steal, that could take them from being a 6-win team to 8 or 9-win team. Oklahoma, getting Missouri at home. Arkansas is a question mark. And the Iron Bowl is always a bit of a coin toss, no matter how good the teams are. So 9 wins is on the table. It's just there's a lot of contingencies at play.
Well, if you told me that they go 9-3, I don't blink an eye. That means Jackson Arnold didn't turn the ball over. Moderately offensively, they did a lot of the same things other than turning the ball over from last year. Defensively, they did some good things. But, Joe, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can also see Oklahoma and A&M winning those games. Jackson Arnold going back to Soonerville, gets rattled, throws a pick. I can see it. Joe, them going at A&M. A&M's not an easy place to play. Then I wrote
that as a loss. That one I chalk as a loss. They're not winning that game.
Okay. So, Joe, I could see them coming out of the gate 0-2. By the way, you got Georgia on the road.
Home. Georgia's home.
Okay, sorry. Georgia's at home. You got Georgia at home. It doesn't matter if you were on the road or not.
They're not beating Georgia.
Okay. Then you have Missouri, who I don't know if Missouri's going to stink, brother. Like, I don't. Arkansas, Taylor Green goes off, then what? I mean, the only one that I could make justifiable that I couldn't see the other team winning would be Kentucky.
I don't think they're beating, I don't think Kentucky's beating them. Like, I think Kentucky's a win.
So even though we see situations where they can win 9 games, I also look at their schedule and say to myself,
They could only win 6. It's very plausible for everything that we're talking about.
If they split and go 3-3 against teams that we think are about, then what? Then what? That's because I don't think they're beating Bama. But you never. We'll get to Alabama.
At home in the Iron Bowl. So
you never know in the Iron Bowl. Stupid shit happens. Joe, I think here's what I think in closing about Auburn. They have the widest range to do so many different things than anybody in the country.
I agree. I agree. I think we've talked about a lot of teams that have high floors, and I think Auburn presents a lot of potential. I mean, 10 wins isn't even completely off the table for them, but it's like a singular concept that we're really talking about here. Protect the football.
That's all. That's all we're asking.
And it's an accomplishable thing. But right. This is the biggest thing where, like, out of a lot of the teams that we've done so far, they have the least predictable record.